Welcome into the official this week. We got another great show for you as always. We are going to be giving you, we've been doing this as the season has progressed every week or two, making sure and keeping you up to date on what the high school prospects, the senior class is doing in terms of risers and fallers. Who's making a big impression as the senior season? Who's confirming what we thought? Who is making us question where we had them ranked? All that and more on this week's official. This is the official. Welcome into the official. Good to see you guys. We're back in action for another week. And before we get started, I think I forgot this last week, and I do happen to have some of their merchandise here on today. Wanted to mention our relationship with homefieldapparel.com. So this is a great example. I'm representing the Swamp, representing my Gators, who just took down Tennessee this past week. And you can see this is kind of like an old school design. And that's really what they do. They do kind of retro vintage designs, keeping in the spirit of various schools and their motifs. And they work with the schools to really put some premium quality shirts, pants, hoodies are great, hats for anybody from like St. Peter's all the way to the Georgias and your Tennessees and your Alabamas of the world. So check out homefieldapparel.com, get yourself a sweet t-shirt, get yourself some pants and maybe a hat. And if you put in Campus to Canton as your promo code, you will get 15% off your first purchase. So if you haven't checked them out already, please go check out homefieldapparel.com. Really doing some cool stuff in the college apparel space. And then, of course, also check out campustocanton.com, the website that helps run this whole show. We specify in recruiting, but anything you need from the college fantasy football side all the way to the NFL fantasy football side, tools, data, rankings, prize picks advice, betting advice, everything you can want over there at campustocanton.com, starting for as little as $2.99 a month. Now, with that being said, let's get on. What is this, week 6 already in high school? Week 5?
4 and 5. Well,
okay,
yeah,
weeks 4 and 5.
About to be 6.
So we didn't fall too far behind. We're trying to do this at least probably every other week, jumping in and giving updates. And let's start with none other than our basically what's become a weekly Dylan Raiola watch. Started out a little clunky, then started tearing it up. But as of today, Matt, you were filling me in that On 3 may have dropped him a hair. Are the wheels getting a little wobbly on the Raiola trade?
I mean, it was definitely a bit more than the hair. I think they've had San as their QB1 for a bit now, but they just dropped Raiola 2 slots down. So now they have Lagway and Kromenhoek above him. So,
boy,
not impressed with what they've seen apparently so far.
Well, let's take a look what he did this past week. We got a couple of clips here.
Yeah, we got 2 really nice throws here. Just total screw it throws.
Yeah, that's a YOLO ball for sure.
Mm-hmm. And you got another one here. It's just underhand tossing it.
What?
I mean, he's fun. There's no denying that. But I think he hasn't had the best start, especially considering his expectations as, the best quarterback in the nation. He's performed well, but not at elite level, I don't think.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what his Arizona competition was like, but certainly going to
it was
Buford,
good, but yeah, it's different.
It's going to be different. Buford, 6A Georgia football every week is going to be quite a contest. So, all right, so that's your Dylan Raiola update. David, let's move over to you and talk about Damon Williams, who is going to Ole Miss. If I'm not
Arizona. He flipped.
Oh, Arizona now. So we do like that probably because I think that door will be open. So take us through what Damon Williams is up to, David.
It's pretty much every week he just completely balls out. He's been super consistent, but you can see right here, just really good lateral mover. Probably one of the best runners in the class, I would say. So in that game right there was against his rival, Seguero. and he was 15 for 20 for 224 yards, 3 touchdowns, but also 17 carries, 185 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the ground. So just a real dynamic player. And just as far as like season totals, he's at 158 QBR. And for people that don't know, the QBR is just from the Max Preps website. Typically, for me at least, I usually look for like a benchmark of like 120, even 130. Like 130 is like ideal. But so he's clearing that easily. 52% rushing market share is really, really good. And then he's playing a 26 SOS, which is his average. So no red flag there either. So, aside from him being like a short king and all that, he's got a pretty clean profile, and he'll come in there, and it'll be interesting because he'll be competing with Noah Fafita, another short king, and then some guys, some people liked it's Dorman. He's more of a pocket passer too, so he's got his fans as well.
Yeah, Arizona, doing some work down there. We've liked a few of their recruits lately. Obviously, they brought in at least one 5-star last year, or 2 years ago, who's balling out now, McMillan. So the Arizona is kind of, I don't know if I want to say back, but they're certainly fun. All right, moving on. I'll talk about my guy, 5-star. Just got a bump from On3, although I can't even remember exactly where he went because On3's website is down right now. But DJ Lagway out of Texas, still committed to the Gators. Fingers crossed, maybe that win against Tennessee will keep him committed for at least a few more weeks. But he is putting up just insane numbers. Scoring basically every touchdown his team does, whether it's running or passing. QBR of 138, which David was just saying kind of does hit his threshold. The strength of schedule is 18.5 right now, which isn't bad. We've talked a little bit about how his high school doesn't necessarily, play the hardest schedule in Texas, but certainly 18 is not, it's not terrible. We've seen much worse, but, just absolutely balling out and continuing to show from a tape standpoint, really that like he really can go off platform. He can throw on the run. He can throw sidearm, 3/4. Like he has very fun delivery in the Raiola way, but adds a little bit of your true dual threat, nature. And so I'm obviously very excited, and I'm glad to see him having a great senior season, and hopefully it just keeps up right there. We also have a few other guys. Isaac Wilson is looking pretty good. David, I feel like you've talked about him before. You want to give us an update on what Isaac Wilson's doing out in Utah?
Yeah, I'm starting to get slightly skeptical of this Corner Canyon offense. It seems to it's going to go no matter what to some degree. But he's just putting up astronomical numbers at this point. So he's on pace to beat Devin Brown's Utah passing record, which was Devin Brown threw for 4,881 yards as a senior at Corner Canyon. And so right now, Isaac Wilson's on pace to beat that. He's at 373 passing yards per game, and Devin Brown was 349. So I don't know, like the coach that's there, I think his first year that he was there was with Zach Wilson. He put up decent numbers, but then it's just from there, it's just gotten progressively better. So I don't know, like what we've seen. I was hoping Devin Brown would start a little cleaner. He's looked a little shaky in his start at Ohio State. Still think he's very talented, but I guess something to consider is that system really just kind of making these guys seem a little bit better than they might be. I don't know. It's something to think about.
I do think it is something to think about. I mean, it's insane numbers out of there. I watched a little of Devin Brown. I was not, he's gotten in some of the games this year, kind of when games were not necessarily in the balance. I haven't quite, even in his mop-up duty, I haven't been like really wowed. So it kind of makes sense that he's not starting, and Kyle McCord's looking just fine. Julian saying, quick update here. I think what I really like is that he's continuing to add some rush market share, 15%, I think, which is, what we like to see over that minimum of 10. And we know he's really accurate. We know he's a very cerebral guy. He's going to make good decisions and be very accurate in the short intermediate but really enjoy that he's adding a little rushing. So that's the update there. And then Matt, talk about Mike Hawkins here. Is he on the comeback trail at all? He's been in our doghouse a little bit since the Elite 11.
I think you might pick the wrong person here to talk about Mike Hawkins. I mean, he is performing well. He dropped down to significantly worse level of competition, and he is dominating against them. 151 on the max press passer rating, which I believe is just NCAA format. I'll have to check after. And he's doing well on the ground. I have him graded very differently than you and Matt Bruning do. You both have him as a tier 2 player. I think he's undraftable, frankly. He's just not an NFL passer, and he's not going to start for 2 years at Oklahoma. He's definitely not jumping Jackson Arnold. So, I mean, it's good to see he's performing well, but I'm still very much out.
Okay. I think that's fair. And I do need to tweak my rankings on him a little bit. I need to drop down some of his passing numbers because I think it's become pretty evident. Like you said, I mean, I don't think he's a high major passer and certainly not an NFL passer. Still like that dual threat, and maybe transfers out eventually, and like he's done in high school. You don't love to see a guy drop down in competition in high school either. So, all right, we got David. Can you run through here Daniel Kalen and Cutter Boley, because I think they're both what do we call big statue pocket passers, big old pocket passers or something, which we don't love, and they're not really performing this year so far. Cutter Boley going to, I think, Kentucky, which is a pretty big pull for them, but yikes, 10 of 23 I'm seeing here.
Yeah, he was in week 4. He was 10 for 23 for 64 yards. He hasn't been very consistent. It seems like he's always battling an injury or something. Every article I read, it's like, oh, well, he didn't play very well, but he's got something going on. So it's like, I don't know, maybe, but I just haven't seen enough as far as his production goes. And then Daniel Kalen, yeah, his 73.3 QBR, he's running a little bit more, but it's just nothing to impress. And they play a bad schedule in Nebraska. His SOS is 9. It's really low. So that team right now is 2-3. I don't know why they shouldn't be, because they have 3 Power 5 players on that team. So he's throwing to Isaiah McMorris. I believe he's a 4-star receiver. You're gonna have to remind me. He's committed to Iowa State, maybe, or
no? They're both going to Nebraska, I think.
Oh, that's right.
I thought like the whole team was going to Nebraska, basically.
That's right. All 3. So Daniel Kalen, Isaiah McMorris, and Davon Hall, all going to Nebraska. Davon Hall, he's another guy I'll just skip to it. 16 receptions, 105 yards, 1 touchdown, 6.6 yards per reception. Unless these stats are wrong on Maps Preps, which happens a lot, that's just bizarre. That's through 4 games. So I don't know. They should not be losing to some of these teams. They're losing to stock down, I would say, for all of those Nebraska guys.
Yeah, and I liked Hall quite a bit just on the tape, but it's not really fleshing out here. And then a guy we really liked, Will Hammond's on this list, unfortunately highlighted in red, which means we don't have good news. Back down to earth, it looks like. Matt, he had one game with like 8 touchdowns, right? I mean, something ridiculous.
Yeah, he lost 82-80.
Yeah, we talked about that. But since then, I guess has not looked so great. He had a great Elite 11, and we were kind of inching him up. I think, he might be more of that mid quarterback with some rushing upside after all.
Yeah. Especially, Texas Tech is looking less and less like this elite landing spot too. So it's like,
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's disappointing, but we just got to move on here. Okay. So those are quarterbacks. Those are your updates on quarterbacks. Running backs. We've got someone I'm very excited to report. David Eziomume has kind of gone, I believe you said in the chat today, nuclear over the last 2 weeks, Matt. And so, we like to see that. I still think you've got him here as 200, basically well over 200 yards and 6 touchdowns. and well over 200 yards a week over the last 2 weeks, and 3 touchdowns in each game. So, we like that. Let's see what we've got here on tape, and showing, some patience there, although that's kind of like more of I don't love the guys who don't get tackled, because I don't want to see guys get hit a lot. But so that was a nice, powerful run. And, he's just been going to town.
Got a couple more big ones here too.
David, Matt, are you changing your opinion on him? Because, I had him too high. You liked him, but I had him too high. I agree. I agree with that now. What are you doing with some of this info here that we've had over the last 2 weeks?
I still don't really feel like he's shown me anything that I hadn't seen previously. He's very physical, and he's very fast. He had few nice, little open field cuts in the last play. I still don't think it's his strength. He's not bad at it, but he's not going to be shaking guys in the open field at the next level. That's just not who he is. He's a powerful, linear runner, and I think he excels at that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I don't see, the more I've watched him a little bit, even with these games where he's been going off, I don't see a lot of creativity. I think, if it's there, he'll take it. I don't see a lot of unique, playmaking ability necessarily.
Again, I've been sour on him, but I like him. Like, he's a top 10 RB in the country for me. So don't want to sound like, I'm a hater.
So still undervalued.
The services, he's barely a top 50 running back to them.
Yeah,
so
still undervalued based on the services here. And we like to see this. David talks about, we got Johan Cardenas. He was a little injured. He's back with a vengeance, it looks like. Fill us in what's happened over the last few weeks.
Yeah, he's back with a knee brace on. Probably not 100% still, but so that was a nice one-handed grab there.
Yeah.
This next clip, you can see him running a little bit and doing some cutting and stuff. So, it looks like he's returning to form, which we want to see. And then here's another clip of him with another one-handed catch. So I actually bumped his hands grade up a little bit. I guess I didn't realize he was that good of a pass catcher, but so I bumped him up a little in that regards. As far as like rushing in the game, he was 25 for 172. Or actually, hold on, I'm looking at the wrong one. He was 32 for 178 and 2 touchdowns. So they did not hesitate to give him tons of touches, which is a good sign. So that's good. Could definitely be a workhorse. That's kind of what we're thinking. And this is another guy that we're kind of viewing as like Ezioma, where it's just like the services don't really like him, I guess, but we're kind of seeing him as a 3-down guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel comfortable with that because we have done it before. And so I would say stick with our process. And then I like Kewan Lacey. It's been no secret we like him. He's been rising. One of the guys I liked immediately on first watch, but I think all of us have been pretty interested in him. He's going to Nebraska, so they at least got one guy right in that class. And I've got here 25 for 172, 70-yard receiving TD, a 98-yard kickoff return. You love to see that. We always love the multi-dimensional guys who are scoring in multiple ways. Our hypothesis, not that complicated. If you are really, really good, every time you touch the ball, you should be getting into the end zone at the high school level. So love to see Kewan Lacey just continue to really, blow up as a senior after already being pretty interesting, even heading into the year. Looks like he may have gotten injured here on this note, so hopefully he gets better in a hurry. And then I believe a Florida commit here. I don't have a lot of info, but looks like you've got Kanan Daniels. That is the Florida commit, right? If I remember that name.
Yeah. Putting
up some big-time numbers here. You've got him at 73, 797, and 10 through 3 games. That's pretty nice. Matt, what do you think about this guy?
Yeah, this is probably more of David's guy. I do like him too. He's a tier 3 player for me. But he's dominating against, decent. I think it's probably the best Mississippi competition there is. Which it's not as good as other states, but still, he's playing the best he can, and he's absolutely dominating. You can't ask for much better than 38, 427, and 7 in a game.
Jeez,
that's just absurd. He doesn't have the best athletic testing, but he's a good runner. He moves well laterally too. And I think he could definitely at least be a rotational guy at Florida. Maybe the next workhorse, but we'll see.
The Napier staff
Yeah, they
seems to
don't really
have
like
done
going
an.
with one.
No, they're going to give a ton of guy carries,
Mm.
but I mean, they identified Montreal Jordan. They ETN is looking fantastic. I mean, and I wasn't that high on ETN, but he looks very, very good. Trayon Webb hasn't done too much, but they seem to have a decent track record of identifying talent at the running back position, so that is promising. David, oh my gosh, Kedron Young, is this one game? 32, 235, and 2?
Yeah.
Headed to
So
Notre Dame, right?
yeah, headed to Notre Dame. Headed to a pretty good running back room, but I don't know. He's looking like a real good. Except for last week, I didn't actually put the note on here, but they lost 42-0 against Longview, which is like definitely a strong opponent, probably too strong for the team that he plays for at Lufkin. And he didn't really have a chance in that game. I don't know what his stats were. It wasn't good. But before that game, he has been dominating. I mean, he's been putting up at least 150 yards every game, and they're just feeding him. So that's what he is. I mean, he's going to be he's got a awesome like physique. He's like 5'10", 225, super strong lower half, upper half, the whole deal. So he's a guy that can definitely handle a heavy volume, and that's what they obviously agree with us. They're just feeding him like 30 touches a game.
Why wouldn't you? And then you can just go right into Jason Brown. I know he's been a guy you've been higher on, at least than me, and maybe higher on than Matt. I'm not sure, but a guy you've mentioned a number of times. And this 20 yards per carry last week or something.
Yeah,
that's Noel. That's some Noel Devine stuff right there.
People are very split on him. I love his body, and like he's just very strong and stout. I like running backs like this. He tests very well, has a really good athletic score, like 84th percentile. I don't know if apparently he runs like a 4.47 or something like that. I don't exactly, and he has hit 21 miles per hour, but I don't know if I see more of like a 4.52 guy or something like that. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But he's putting up crazy numbers so far this year, which was one thing I wanted to see because last year his efficiency surprised me because he's not playing very good competition. I think that was like the biggest question I needed him to answer. And he was dealing with he played a lot like the back half of the season with a bad hamstring. That could be part of the reason why. But anyways, he's dominating so far. I just want to see it continue, and hopefully he puts up a big year.
All right, that sounds good. And Matt, can you fill me in? So Dylan Jones, not a guy we've talked about a whole lot. Looks like he's committed to Wisconsin, not your typical Wisconsin recruit at only 180 pounds as a running back. But what's up with him? And do we want to think about Dylan Jones a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, he's been dominating. He's probably one of the better just pure runners in the class, I think. Just his athletic profile doesn't really match up to it to make him super exciting. I mean, he looks good on tape though, playing some of the better, I think the best Maryland competition there is, and they play out of state competition too.
Lady of Good Counsel is like a really good program.
He plays Elijah Moore too. Stephon Diggs came out of there.
Yeah,
and he's doing really good. I mean, Wisconsin also has two other running back commits in his class, and Darian Dupree, who I know David and Austin like, and Gideon Ituka, who's probably getting overshadowed now between those other two. So he's definitely someone to monitor. And especially with the changing offense too. Braylon Allen hasn't been, super productive in this offense this year. But they have been splitting it. So who knows? Definitely someone to monitor.
Okay. And with the new offense and the Longo offense, I mean, they're not necessarily going to go with these 250-pound running backs anymore. It's going to look a little different. So interesting to see how he will fit in. Jordan Marshall broke his high school's all-time rushing record. He's going to Michigan. Not super flashy guy. We've talked about him before, but obviously gets it done and is a quality running back. Although not sure he's going to be a transcendent talent at the next level. And then real quick, just for time, because we'll get into the receivers, we've got Jarek Gibson, who, looked very pedestrian, 17 for 49 and 39 for 108 in the last 2 games. So really not averaging a lot of, yards per carry, only 3 receptions on the year, playing for IMG. So that's not looking great. And Cameron Jones is not even starting anymore. So I definitely need to take him off my list. He was very high for me in the summer. That was a miss. Braylon Russell, another guy I really liked. He is not really doing a whole lot. 51, 225, and 4 over the last 2 games. That's not going to get it done. I mean, we want to see guys almost approaching 10 yards per carry if they're going to be this good and translate to the next level. So, all right, let's move on to some good news. Wide receivers. Jeremiah Smith went off. Are these stats from one game? Matt, take us through Jeremiah Smith. Is this 17, 321, 3, one game?
I think that might be a typo, David. I think
That's for max reps.
I don't think it was 17. I mean, I charted that game. I don't think it was 17 catches.
I just went off the website. That's all.
He did look very good that game, though. I did chart that game, and I mean, Bergen Catholic is like a top 30 team in the country, best team in New Jersey, and he just totally steamrolled them. They didn't really have a chance. Josiah Trader had been out the past 2 games, so that definitely gave him a bit more advantage. Less targets to go around. And then, he went up again this week against American Heritage and performed very well, 6 for 82 and 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, he's dominating. He's the clear, 1 or 2 wide receiver in this class. I still think Micah Hudson is better, but, he has definitely solidified his status as being, the star player. And as I didn't even mention in the clip, we got him at 21.7 miles per hour on a play. His previous best was like 20.8.
That's good. That's really good.
I mean, recruiting analytics got him at 21.7. I did as well the same night that he ran that play. So, it's all coming together. David.
That is what it says against Bergen Catholic. 17, 321, and 3. That is what it says on Max Preps.
I don't think it was 17.
But that's nuts. I mean, even
Twitter said something else, but regardless, he had over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns.
So who cares about the 17? Yeah, if he had 300 yards, whew, that's nuts. All right, well, and Julio Jones once had over 200 yards in an NFL game, so maybe he's got. We've been hearing the Julio comps for a while. All right, TJ Moore. I'm going to give David the floor here because he's been pounding the table for TJ Moore and looks like he's really coming on here in 3 games, averaging over 100 yards per game, well over 100 yards per game, and he is a deep threat, and his yards per reception is showing that, huh?
Yeah, that's what. So, I've been pounding the table kind of like very lightly. I do like his tape. I like his highlights. Like just like kind of like Noah Rogers, where I'm like, oh my god, these highlights are sick. But Matt did the charting on him, and it's not as good as I have maybe had thought. Maybe he's like his catch rate's pretty low, but some of that's just uncatchable passes, so it's hard to say at the moment. But overall, his charting wasn't as good as I would have thought. I actually moved him down a little bit, so there's something there that I feel like other people are seeing. I'm just not seeing what the issue is, but I think I'm maybe a little bit too high on him. So I actually moved him to the top of tier 3. But I think maybe he's a bottom tier 2 guy at the end of it for me. Anyways, he's averaging like 30 yards per reception. I don't know. He's averaging almost like 150 receiving yards per game against 24 SOS, which is average. So he's dominating decent competition.
Yeah. All right, Nikar looking really nice. 30 for 489 and 9. I believe this is that's probably a season's worth, I would imagine, right? That's not just so that's on the season. He's good. I like him a lot. I did a little tape of him for our recruiting over the summer, and I don't know if he's super dynamic with the ball in his hands, but he's very, very fast, and he can, he's a decent receiver. He's got good hands. He's just not super creative once he has the ball. But one of the tight ends we really like, Landon Thomas, is on that team, and he's only gone 13, 140, and 1. So Nikar very clearly the top option. Then we have David. I'll go back to you here for Cam Williams. I like to throw the Notre Dame guys to you. He's looking pretty good this year, and not a guy we've talked about too much. He's even got some kick return, punt return TDs. So what do we think about this?
Yeah, I don't know where I stand with him. I think I drafted him once in one of our mocks because he can hit 22 miles per hour, but at some point we say like, oh, like just like 21's fine or whatever. It's like it's not that big of a deal. But I don't know. He's just dominating competition. He's playing really, really bad competition. So that's like the thing where it's just like keep it in mind. Like, so for the people listening, like when you go watch his highlights and stuff, his SOS is -38, which I don't know. That's
bad.
It's like really, I think it might be the worst I've seen, honestly, from like one of the top prospects.
Yeah.
And I went through like all the year 1.0s, like all the way through like 2014, and not one of them had only like the best competition they played throughout their whole high school career was like under 0. So it's just like that's not saying he won't be he'll avoid being a year 1.0. It just says like he'd be an outlier if he did so. I don't know. He's dominating though. It's pretty crazy what he's doing.
Wait, he'd be an outlier if he did not avoid a year 1.0, or if he did?
No. If he avoids, I probably misspoke. If he avoids being a year 1.0, he would be an outlier given the competition.
We would expect that he might be a candidate for year 1.0 then, based on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Matt Bryant Wesco, I'll let you talk to him. We've got him on the list of one of the good performers, but I know you've been a little bit lower on him, if I remember correctly. However, he's got all 8 of his team's receiving TDs. And any change on opinion on Bryant Wesco? I mean, he probably should be doing this. I'm not sure he's doing anything we wouldn't expect.
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, he's dominating bad competition, which I think he's fully capable of doing.
Yeah.
It's a very run heavy team, and he's pretty much the only receiver on that team. A lot of times they're just out there with one wide receiver, and it's just him. So, I mean, he's doing what I think he should be doing now. Last week he didn't do as great, but.
All right, I'll let you just keep talking. Micah Hudson, take it away. We know you love him. He's looking like he's doing some fun stuff. I like these rushing stats here.
Yeah, I mean, even last year he played. He just gets handoffs in the backfield too. He just will line up a running back, and he looks great there too. Here he's just totally shaking somebody. I mean, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
he's been my wide receiver 1. I think this is his 3rd 100-yard game of the season. 3 out of his 4 games, and almost hitting 100 yards rushing. That's awesome too. So. I mean, just continuing to add on to what's an awesome profile already.
Very fun. I mean, you can see in that clip there, just extremely quick twitch there. I mean, just really, really flashy in the open field. And then we have Trey Davis, who is we talked about him just prior to the show. But David, take us through Trey Davis. Is not a guy we've talked about too much, but putting up some insane numbers. And we were talking before the show, Matt said he's like one of the true risers kind of out of nowhere this year.
Yeah, Matt, you can talk about him. It's kind of your guy.
Yeah, I've been kind of hyping him up for a bit now. He came to the season with no FBS offers. Now I think he just got a San Diego State one recently. So even if he goes G5 or maybe even P5, he's somebody I might be kind of snagging at the end of drafts because he has a great athletic profile. I think he's 68th percentile in our database. The only thing really holding him back there is his weight. He's 170 pounds. I think he consistently runs the 4.3s. I forget his vertical or broad, but that's also really high end too. And he's just dominating. I mean, he's also playing bad competition, but I mean he's doing what he should be. In 4 games, 16 catches, 535 yards, and 9 touchdowns. It's a 30.4 yards per catch average. He's also, lining up in the backfield. He's returning kicks. So I just think there's a ton to love with him there, especially if he goes to a G5 team. I think he could really just end up being a dominant producer.
Yeah, and I like that. And I think we got to take like the whole SOS thing and some of these other things with a grain of salt. Like, for instance, if you got a high level P5 guy who's a top 10 receiver in the country doing it against a really bad strength of schedule, I would give myself a little bit of pause. Is he that good based on what we've seen, based on what David said about, when your strength of schedule is so low, these guys fall into year 1 zeros often. But when you're talking about a guy who's way down the list, probably a G5 guy, I'm not going to be that worried about strength of schedule. So, these things all need to be a little bit in context, in my opinion. Like, I wouldn't just rule out guys because of that, but you just need to kind of paint the whole picture a little bit. And based on expectations, like you said, it's going G5, you're going to take him at the last round of a draft. I don't care. I'm not that worried about it. All right. We now kind of for some of the negatives here. We did talk about Davion Hall not doing too much. The Nebraska commit, Mike Matthews, after hyping him up after a few weeks, he maybe has come back down to earth a little bit. 187-1 through 4 games. So, and that one is the touchdown that we all watched, where he had that great run after the catch. That's a little concerning. Tysier Denmark, I drafted him last week. 36-1 through 4 games. That's not great. Joe, he's a trader who I've been out on for a long time. 897-0, only 2 games. He's been injured. And then DeBron Gatling, 150-2 over 4 games, and he's 4th on his own team in yards per game. So any of those names probably are going to be falling down the list if you had him high. And Mike Matthews, that's disappointing. I feel like he's been a roller coaster for us. I don't know what to think about Mike Matthews. I was like ready to go all in, and now I'm like, back off.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the trickier ones in this class.
His charting isn't very – so, like, he is raw. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of out on raw guys. I feel like especially at wide receiver, I feel like I'd rather do it at other positions more so. But like his charting doesn't look very good either, and Austin kind of pointed out his limited movement, so I moved him down.
Austin did, yeah. He's definitely been mentioning that. So, well, I this raw idea is really interesting at wide receiver. We have given some guys credit if they're absolute freak shows, but I think there should be a pretty high bar for a raw receiver. He better be like giant. He better be Megatron. So I think guys who aren't necessarily like true elite standouts on the athleticism, maybe we need to like not fall in love with these raw players at wide receiver. Because, if you come in and you're raw, you're not going to get on the field very much. And then you're tracking for year 1 zero and things just start snowballing from there. So I think that's something definitely worth thinking about. And then I wanted to say, if you're following us on Twitter or, in the Discord, you're a member of Campus to Canton, you would have already known this, but if you just come across this on YouTube and you're watching this, I want to shout out Matt and David. They called one of the biggest stars of the early going here as a true freshman, G5 QB at FIU, Kewan Jenkins, who's been fantastic and now starting and just overcame a 3-touchdown dog, beat UConn for FIU. And these guys were calling it last February that he probably should have been a P5 guy. He was good. He had a chance to start because FIU didn't have anything, and they nailed it. So, doing great work here, doing the Lord's work out here on the official. Great job, guys. And, look forward to this every single week. And that is your week 4 and 5 recap. I hope everyone enjoyed it. This has been The Official.